Right now, all tied up. High drama in the race for the White House, and tonight, just about anything could tip the balance. We're going to get you the very latest on the state of the race, and we tell you why both sides have some things to celebrate and a lot of things to sweat out on the eve of the debate. And next, Battlefield Hofstra. We're just 27 hours from the next presidential debate on our own Long Island. What issues are we expecting to hear at the town hall? How will the debate move the needle? And what strategies should the candidates turn to? Our expert panel looks at the debate from every angle. And later, the nuclear debate. The most controversial nuclear power plant arguably in the country is the target of the most contentious nuclear power debate in the U.S. Well, tonight, what supporters and critics of Indian Point are saying. That is, the critics take the NRC to court with the plant's relicensing again in the balance. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Monday evening, the 15th of October. Now, no time to mess around with the fancy hellos here on the show because we got no time to waste for the presidential campaign. We are neck and neck in this. You can't even hype this more than it needs to. 22 days to the election and just one day from that second and arguably most important presidential debate. Big question of the eve of the debate is, where does the race stand as we speak? And if that question has you scratching your head, trust me, you're not alone. For more on the polls that are saying this and that, let's bring in our senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. And I guess you could say there's something in it for everybody, but also no definitive line in the sand who's up, who's down. Yeah, absolutely. And for people trying to analyze those polls, there's been a lot of head scratching over the last couple of days. Overall takeaway from the latest polling data, you could argue that President Obama remains ahead tonight, but that is highly debatable. And if the president does lead, it's only by the slimmest of margins. Let's start with the national poll averages and forecasts. Real Clear Politics poll average has the race a flat-footed tie. Both candidates at 47.3% of the vote. The president with a razor-thin 10-point lead in the electoral vote estimate. 146 electoral votes still up for grabs, according to RCP. Poll averages at HuffPost pollster give the president a lead of less than 1% in the popular vote. It gives Obama 275 electoral votes, just enough to win re-election. And in the election forecast at the New York Times 538 blog, Nate Silver has the president up 50-49 with a slim margin for winning the electoral vote. Silver gives Obama a 63.3% chance of winning. Anything under 60, by the way, is considered a toss-up. Now compare those averages and estimates to the latest numbers we're getting from the national tracking polls, and there you see the spread we're getting today. Two national polls, Ipsos Reuters and ABC Washington Post, put the president ahead but slightly. Investors Business Daily's tracking poll has the race a tie. Gallup and Rasmussen give slim leads to Mitt Romney. The race no less confusing when looking at key swing states. In Florida, a state that Real Clear and Pollster have as a toss-up, and 538 says leans Romney. 3 of the 4 most recent polls have Romney ahead, but 1 still has Obama leading. Let's go to Virginia, also a toss-up on 2 of our 3 poll analyses. And again, 3 of the 4 most recent polls there have Romney ahead, but only slightly. A CBS Times poll has Obama up 5, but that's beginning to get a little dated. Ohio is the big swing state exception right now. Only Real Clear Politics calls it a toss-up. The others say it is leaning Obama. Obama with slightly larger leads in 3 of the 4 most recent polls. Only Republican-leaning Rasmussen shows Romney ahead. And finally, some polling bits with good news for each campaign. Let's start with Mitt Romney. The weekend's ABC Washington Post poll shows the number of very enthusiastic Romney supporters jumped up 10 points, an impressive gain after the first debate. If Romney can even keep that number steady or improve on it tomorrow night, it might trigger a second wave of Romney polling momentum. For Obama supporters, the good news is the ground game seems to be working in their favor, even 3 weeks from the election. In swing states, nearly 40% of voters say they've been directly contacted by the Obama campaign. That's 10 points higher than Romney's, a difference that may explain why the president has held on in swing states, even as his national lead has shrunk. It also bodes well for early voting at Election Day get-out-the-vote drives. Rich? And in that early voting, at least the early estimates have Obama tracking, I think, 3-2 for roughly the voters. But again, all this stuff leads you to say, what did you say? And I don't blame you here. Many confusing, competing numbers coming out today. I think it just compounds the narrative that nobody's really sure where we are right now. They are sure of one thing. Got a little over 3 weeks to the election. A lot of ads are going to be running in the swing states, and you got 2 important presidential debates left. All right, now 2 final notes about tomorrow night showing how big the potential impact of the debate will be. Remember when 67 million Americans watched that first debate? Only Super Bowl got more people watching, and more than 50 million people watched the VP debate. Takeaway, there's going to be a huge audience tomorrow night. In the debate, it will move the numbers. Here are those polls, the debate day and then the day after. 90 minutes, that's all it took to really change this thing from looking like a foregone conclusion to a toss-up here. All right, huge swing here in presidential politics, and who knows where we're going to be at 10:30 tomorrow night at the conclusion of the second debate. All right, joining us to talk about this, the race, the debate, what tomorrow may bring, some suggestions for strategy here, and certainly one guy at the table who's looking for a good night from Mitt Romney. Let's bring in our panel. Michael Tobman, former advisor to Democratic New York Senator Chuck Schumer, now a partner with Hudson TG Consulting. Dominic Carter, a good friend, political journalist and author. Steve Obsitnik, Republican nominee for Congress in Connecticut's 4th District. He's challenging a frequent RFL guest here, Congressman Jim Hines, and we've already met Andrew. I almost called you Congressman. You would have liked that, wouldn't you, Steve? Let's put it from your perspective. As we stand here right now, are you as confused by the numbers, or do you have a sense, momentum, or whatever else, somebody's ahead or somebody's behind?
Yeah, I can just speak from the people I talked about there. I think what people are focused on right now, and it hasn't changed in the last few weeks, is jobs. That is the important thing that people care about, and I think this election isn't. We're going to see some swings along the way right now, and I think it depends how both candidates do tomorrow night. I think they both know what they have to do, and I don't think we've seen the end of a flip back and forth. But people out there are constant right now. People are hurting, especially in my district. You look at Bridgeport, 14% of the people are unemployed, 23% of the people are underemployed. That's what people are focused on, and they just really are starting for solutions from these two gentlemen.
The one thing that I think you could argue is beneficial for the president is he made sure this race wasn't a referendum. He was branding this as a choice election between the two candidates. To that end, and to Steve's point here that jobs is still issue number one no matter what anybody wants to tell you, tomorrow night, Andrew, I'd argue that we're going to get laid out here, at least as the format allows, to try and give the two stark differences of the two different choices what the next 4 years would be. You buy that?
I do, and from the first two debates, from the vice presidential debate and the first presidential debate, we heard a lot from the Romney-Ryan campaign about what their plans are for creating jobs. Now, you may agree with what they're saying, you may agree with the facts that they're giving, but that was definitely a focus of their campaign. We haven't heard nearly as much from Obama and Vice President Biden. They have not gone into a lot of details, a lot of criticism about haven't really given a vision for what they want the next 4 years to include. I wonder if we're going to get that from President Obama, or if we're going to get more attacking, more questioning of the proposals that Mitt Romney puts forward.
Dom, let me ask you, same question I started with, which was, who's winning right now?
Let's put it this way. If I had to be in a position right now, I would not want to be in President Obama's shoes tonight, if the election were held tonight. Mitt Romney clearly has the momentum. There's no doubt about it. It's just remarkable because the president could have finished him that first debate. This election could have been over. And the president may have to live, who knows what's going to happen this final month, but the president may have to live for the rest of his life with the fact that one debate performance ended his tenure as president of the United States.
Surely the Obama re-election campaign, if they want one thing, it's a time machine. They would like to go back in time and redo that first debate. No matter how strong his performance tomorrow evening, it'll be measured in the context and in the narrative and frame of the first debate. Did he learn his lesson? Does he need to be more energized? Maybe he didn't learn his lesson. We'll be talking about tomorrow evening and the following days.
We can be sure there'll be a different tone. But Michael, you as a living here, whether it's in a district, state, or whatever else, you look at the numbers, you look at the demos, you look at the turnout. As bad as the president screwed it up, basic math says if you go from 1980 electoral politics here, the Democrats got 12 states sewn up that as much as they try, they can't screw up to win. That basically leaves, they got to pick up Ohio, they got to pick up another medium-sized state, in this particular case, people talk about New Mexico, and then one more. Right. And then they hit the magic number of 270. Right. Isn't the path to 270 still tougher, even as we stand now with the popular vote and everything else? Isn't it still tougher for the challenger than the incumbent?
Absolutely. Campaigns, as much money has been spent on them up until now, are about choices, and it's been abstract up until now. And now it actually is a very real choice. For the Republican Party, the foil for them is that Romney, as the Republican nominee, might not have been the best person to carry this message of the best choice. Right now, people are thinking, well, how would Governor Perry have done? How would Rick Santorum have done? The governor, Mitt Romney's tenure as head of Massachusetts is something he has needed to run away from.
I bought that argument you said, but once Kansas ended and the 90 minutes were over, people turn up. What the heck just happened? Obama got it handed to him, and also, who is this guy? And I guess to this point, I'd ask you, the core political beliefs of Mitt Romney, I think other than maybe his wife and his kids, nobody knows right now. But it hasn't hurt him. He basically got to redefine himself on a stage, and after 90 minutes, the president was still saying, wait a minute, for 6 years you said this, and the last 90 minutes you said X. I'm shocked, but it still hasn't seemed to hurt him. Does it bother Republicans to say, wait a minute, this guy went to the heart rate in the primary. Now, we don't even know if he's in the middle. He's basically making up as he's going along. Is that a position Republicans are comfortable with?
I guess I disagree with the point that he's kind of moved, dramatically away. I think we saw some new ideas, but the core and principles he talked about are what he's been fighting for many years. And I think the great point, what gives me a lot of hope in terms of the number of people that are paying attention to these elections, it's staggering. And it's back to the book, The Wisdom of Crowds, where crowds will make good decisions. And what we're seeing is a hunger by the electorate, which I personally haven't seen in a long time, for people that want solutions. And in that debate, what we saw is Mitt Romney coming with solutions, bringing his game, and President Obama, for whatever reason, on his heels a little more. And I think I see that in my race too, which is important for people saying, you know what, you've been a veteran, you've been an entrepreneur, you've been a successful business person. That's great on the one hand, but give me solutions. And that's why I try to be specific in terms of what we can do to get this economy going.
It's interesting that you point that. First of all, in your district, I think a more moderate Mitt Romney plays better because it's a more moderate district. Whereas, you go to Oklahoma or you go to Kansas, and they would want to see a more conservative Mitt Romney. But you talk about the specifics, and Rich's point, I think, is well taken, that Romney either hasn't given specifics or has obfuscated a lot of the specifics. I honestly don't know where he stands on abortion. I mean, he gave 2 different answers in the course of 24 hours yesterday. I don't know how he wants to pay for the tax cuts.
I don't even know if he do the tax cuts. Real quick, I want to ask you 3 a quick question, and we're going to go to break. Hypothetical, Obama wins. Is he clearly back in the driver's seat if he does better than Mitt Romney tomorrow night?
I think he gets a little bit more cushion in some of the swing states. Some of the states that have swung to Romney swing back into the toss-up category. And I think that inherent buffer that he had going into this race that you were describing comes back into play.
Dominic, if the headlines read on Wednesday morning here, Romney wins again, turn out the lights?
If those are the headlines, the president is in serious trouble. The problem, Richard, is that what has happened, it reinforces the image of where the country currently is. High unemployment, things are not good. That it's occurring. It may not have started on his watch, but it's on his watch, the president. So I'm not exactly sure.
2 strategy questions for you, Michael. One is, does the president spend the 90 minutes on the stage stating his record here, or does he start saying 47% and start pointing at the other guy, openings that many people thought existed on that stage in Kansas that he never took?
The answer to that either or would be yes. He has to state his record and talk about his accomplishments, and he has to draw a very sharp contrast.
Okay. Last question. Is his audience tomorrow night independents, or is he trying to rally the base to get the same enthusiasm pickup that Romney obviously got after that last debate?
I believe it is actually having to shift the narrative back to his accomplishments and come back from being on his heels after his last debate performance.
Was he trying to get those independents out there, which there seem to be more undecideds than we were all told there were before?
Independents and undecideds and the editorial boards and the columnists and the papers in those states.
Defending his records will pay dividends with independents, and in the process, he'll get his base more enthused.
Well, we'll see. Now, again, a reminder, everybody, we're going to have live coverage of the debate tonight right here. We'll be live also from Hofstra. Begins at 6 o'clock here on RFL. Then we're back at 9 for the full 90-minute debate. And then afterwards, inside analysis. Plus, we bring you, the audience, into our conversation. Emails, tweets, phone calls. Again, live as well from Long Island. A complete coverage begins at 9 p.m. for that. All right, take a quick break. When we come back, Question is, issues that we should expect to hear tomorrow night. We'll talk about it. It's going to be an interesting format here, but what are the issues that we'll all be talking about when the debate ends, and what are the answers we expect the candidates are going to need to give? Will Libya, the attack there, come up once again? I think you could put that one in the bank. What will Mitt Romney say on the issue, and how will the president respond? That, jobs, and so much more straight ahead, right after this.